Story 1. Am I the a-hole for making my sister cry since I quizzed her because she wants to homeschool her kid? I'm going to get it out of the way and say I don't like homeschooling. I think it's almost impossible to do correctly on social and educational development. This is coming from someone that went to an awful public school. So my sister was talking about homeschooling her kid. She said she and her husband will teach her. My sister and her husband are not the brightest people, much more physically laboring than those who understand math. I tried to ask if that was a good idea, but she basically said, "How hard could it be?" So I started quizzing her, and these were not hard questions. For example, I asked what a verb was, name the planets, and a simple math problem. Literally asked her to do division. She could only name a few planets, and she gave the definition for an adjective, not a verb. Also, just completely wrong on the math. It was kind of sad. I told her the right answer and asked if she can't do it, how will she teach the kid to read or any math? She called me a jerk and left to cry. Her husband is on my butt, but my mom thinks it's a blessing. Am I the a-hole? I'm questioning myself. It's kind of in the way that you did it. If you asked, well, let me ask you, if you can't answer these questions, how do you think you'll be able to teach the kid? Or did you say it like, well, if you can't answer these questions, how are you going to teach your kid to do it? I mean, your views on homeschooling aside, it was kind of all in the delivery. If you were trying to speak out of a place of love and concern for the kid, as well as them, then not the a-hole. But if you were just doing this to kind of bully her, then yeah, I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know. So it's kind of a Schrodinger's, am I the a-hole? You either are or you aren't, depending on your behavior. Story 2. Of child-free weddings and entitled parents losing their minds. My fiancé and I are going to get married in a few months, and we've decided we don't want kids at the wedding. Kids are loud, they run around, they break things, and we don't want to have to deal with that on a day that's supposed to celebrate our relationship. We've assigned the roles that are usually performed by children to our beloved pets. My dog will be the flower girl, my fiancé's dog will be the ring bearer, and my 2 cats are co-maids of honor. Our friends, boyfriend's sister, and my brothers and their parents think this is adorable. Alas, our other relatives do not share this enthusiasm. Boyfriend's parents said they thought it was strange and were hoping that his cousin would be the ring bearer, but they've accepted it because they want us to be happy. My parents threw a fracking fit and accused me of placing animals above children. I calmly explained to them that this was my fiancé's and my wedding, and it really wasn't their place to decide who would be a part of it. Our pets are well-trained and well-behaved, which is more than I can say for our relatives' kids. My parents aren't coming to my wedding because I refuse to follow a certain sexist wedding tradition, father giving away the daughter. My dad told me since I was robbing him of his moment, there was no reason for him to be there. Good fracking riddance. One of the friends I've known since childhood is a mother of 3 and was going to be one of the bridesmaids. She was horrified when she learned that my dogs and cats will be at the wedding party. Surely her 3 ill-mannered kids should have had that honor. She threatened to not come to the wedding. I made it easier for her by taking her name off the guest list. My cousin, who has 2 kids, told me, rather smugly, that she would bring her kids anyway. When she and her family were actually there, surely I won't be able to do anything about it. I told her I would have her husband, and their kids escorted out by security. That shut her up. My fiancé's friend asked him to make me replace my dog with his daughter as the flower girl. He was warned to never bring it up again. This wedding will be a special day for my fiancé and I, and we will not let other people's entitlement ruin it. Sounds like they've got everything well in hand. They've got a firm grasp on their relationship, how they want it to go, how they want their day to go, and really are just trying to fend off the guests. These people are invited people, and they're sitting there trying to take as much liberty as they can. Can you imagine having to plan and budget for security for a wedding? Have you ever seen one that had security before? Let me know. Story 3. Today I fracked up by thinking I got kicked out at 6 and eating from the trash can and drinking from the bathroom tap. When I was 6 years old, I went to the shopping mall with my parents, which was on the opposite side of a large city. There were 3 levels in the shopping mall, and exiting them led to the same-looking car parks. My parents parked on the 2nd floor. We had an understanding that if any of us got lost, that we'd meet up in front of the car. I strayed off and went back to the car, following protocol. Lo and behold, I searched all over the parking lot and couldn't find the family car, not knowing that they were on the 2nd floor instead of the 3rd. I watched enough movies to understand that I must have been kicked out of home. I have to adapt, I thought. So I drank water from the bathroom taps and eyed the trash can to fish out freshly thrown food. I also shoplifted a small blanket and set camp out inside a toilet cubicle. I did this for most of the day until my parents frantically found me by yelling my name inside the bathroom I set camp in. I left the blanket in the cubicle and got out. I still kept this a secret from them to this very day. Well, apart from not checking to make sure you're on the right floor, I think this person kind of took things into their own hands and learned how to survive. She did a lot better than I would have when I was her age. She had a much better frame of mind on how to survive. Not too bad, actually.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 4. Landlord Airbnb'd my home when I was on vacation. I currently rent a home in California on a 1-year lease. I recently stayed in Vancouver for a couple of months with my family to spend time with my new nephew and enjoy summer vacation. When I got back to my house, I noticed that items from my house had been missing, such as my PlayStation, PC, and even an entire gun safe with a firearm inside. There was no sign of forced entry whatsoever. I filed a police report for the theft alongside asking my neighbors if they saw anything. This is where the what the hell comes in. 2 of my neighbors said they didn't even realize I was gone because they saw cars parked in front alongside people coming in and going out the entire time. I proceeded to ask my landlord if he has any repairmen or people coming in and going, since that's the only way somebody could have had a key to the front, and he said he rented out the space on Airbnb while I was gone. I am absolutely furious. He denies any wrongdoing, stating it's his building and I vacated for the 2 months. I was paying every deity damn month I was gone. I realize now he figured out I was gone since I let him know I would be gone for a few months, so instead of picking up the rent in person with cash, I would Cash App him. He is refusing any liability, saying he isn't responsible for the guests, and I should just file a renter's insurance claim? Nope. Get a lawyer. Yeah, again, not a lawyer here, but if this person was still paying for those 2 months, that's your place. And unless the contract specifically allows the landlord to rent out while you're gone, then you've got a solid case here. It's sad that it's going to have everybody dragged into court for a while, but get advice from a lawyer. It sounds like you've got a solid case, at least, somewhat of a solid case. Story 5. Solicitor embarrassed me and made me cry 3 times, so I became super efficient at my job. When I was around 19, I was working as a receptionist, front of house at a solicitor's office. It was quite small, but very successful. 4 partners. Main one was the lady it was named after, who was kind of fierce in a Judge Judy kind of way, so I'll call her Judy. A new solicitor we will call Anna joined the team. We had a conveyancing, a personal injury, financial and criminal department. Solicitor and she would be working family law, and her specialty and main focus would be helping domestic violence victims. At this time, all of the abused clients were women. She was awesome at her job. I saw so many victims of abuse while they waited in reception, and because they were so stressed and worried, they would sometimes just tell me their life story while they waited. I did my best to comfort them. Sometimes they'd have to wait an hour or longer if something else was happening. Anna advocated hard for these women. Restraining orders, emergency hearings, police interviews, protection, arranging safe houses, custody of children. I really admired her, and still do now. These women needed her. The thing about Anna was she was extremely posh, well-educated. She spoke better than the characters on Downton Abbey or even the Queen. But she was also very opinionated, and she swore a lot. Hearing her talk about one of the husbands of a battered woman, what an absolutely... I can't say that insult. It includes two bad words. In a voice that sounds similar to the Queen, made us giggle. But she reined it in and was mostly professional in front of clients. Most of my job was filing, typing voice dictation statements, and logging calls from the women with restraining orders who had been contacted by their ex-partner/abuser. So I'd get a lot of these calls. Hi, Sabrina. He called me at 8:15 a.m. and 10 a.m. today, and also an email at 9 p.m. through his mother's account. Things like that. It all had to be logged and reported for the court files. I got so many of these calls I'd recognize each by voice. This is important later. After she'd been there for maybe a month, she was featured in an article that put the office in a very good light. The article highlighted her important work in keeping these people safe. We celebrated with her. But it went to her head, and she became arrogant and snappy, with little put-downs here and there to the secretaries and other workers. She became pretty full of herself, getting snarky and barking out, "Coffee!" to me as soon as she walked inside. I let it go. She was stressed and doing something important. As it was so long ago, most documents had to be faxed. Her office was 2 doors away from reception. She would let me know if she was expecting something important, and I would drop everything to rush the documents to her. Waiting for legal stuff, police reports, or restraining orders could quite literally be a life or death situation for the clients. Sure enough, a restraining order document came through for a female client who was sitting with Anna in her office. She was crying, looked like she had no sleep. Her story was horrendous. I had to type up some statements of hers. I felt sorry for her. The rule was, if something important came through, I had to rush and interrupt any client meeting. The papers came through. I rushed to the office and handed them to Anna and left. Moments later, Anna was in reception screeching at me because the timestamp said it was delivered a whole hour earlier. I was confused. I'd given it to her the moment it came through. She would not stop yelling that I had put this woman's life in jeopardy over my laziness and stupidity, and I should be fired. She made so much noise that Judy came out of her office to listen, the founder of the company. Her face gave absolutely nothing away, and afterwards she quietly just said, "Please make sure to give the documents quickly in future to avoid any problems." It happened again. An 8 or so page document came through for that same client who was in there with her. I rushed to her office, handed them to her, and went to leave. Before I could, Anna started yelling at me, "This was an hour ago! What the frack, Sabrina? What the frack did I tell you?" This time, she started swearing, and I couldn't get a word in, and all of this in front of the poor client who looked wildly uncomfortable. Judy came to the door again and again. Her face gave nothing away and just asked me to come with her. She asked if there was a problem. I explained, and she thanked me. Anna then followed us out and started yelling at me that I had no respect or kindness in my heart for these women, and I was lazy, utterly incompetent, and ridiculously not right in the head. I cried in the toilets. Over the next few days, the same client came in. Things had escalated further and had hit the newspapers. It was an awful case. So the 4 partners, along with Anna, were meeting with her in the same office. I went back in to give a file to one of the other partners there, and Anna piped up, "Was this from an hour ago too? This seems to be a pattern here." Again, in front of the client and her 4 bosses. It didn't bother me this time, though. I'd had one of those moments in bed the night before. The moment when your eyes snap open while you're trying to sleep and you have that bingo realization moment. So I calmly just said, the reason why the documents appeared to be an hour late was because the clocks have changed for daylight savings time. I should have realized that when the ink was still not dry as I handed them to you. Sure enough, the documents on her desk yesterday was a little smudged. The document. The fax machine was old and didn't update the time. My little victory moment was spoiled because as I was leaving the office, I tripped over my own foot and knocked my head on the door frame, giving Anna a good laugh. The next day, a staff meeting was called about professionalism in the office. The client who witnessed Anna's meltdown had approached Judy. She was really upset to see Anna treat the staff that way, and her swearing had frightened her. Judy was very clear that this was not acceptable. The woman had heard enough yelling and swearing for a lifetime. Anna begrudgingly apologized to me, and I shrugged it off. Judy also apologized privately for not stepping in when she should have. No problem. My malicious compliance was next. Every single call I had to log, instead of the main list I used on the computer, from the women I wrote on an individual post-it. So I'd be in and out of her office sometimes 10 times an hour. Her desk was flooded with post-its that just said, 10 a.m. call from husband to client X. She was annoyed, but this was what she asked for. I wasted a lot of post-its. The next bit got a little strange. A lady who was in a shelter or safe house with her daughter called and said she was reconciling with her husband and she wanted to drop the case completely and did not want to be contacted again. This happens. Sometimes abused victims go back when it gets too much. This was a particularly brutal case. She had been beaten really badly. I told Anna straight away, who said she would call her in a few days. Calling right then might jeopardize her safety if he was there. And I said, no, call the police. She asked why, and I said it wasn't her on the phone. I recognized her voice every time she calls. It wasn't her. We called for a welfare check, and sure enough, her husband had taken her forcefully back home and had his older daughter call the office pretending to be her. He was arrested. When it all worked out well, and the lady was again in a much better safe house, Anna gave me a bottle of wine and a thank you card, and then asked me to stop it with the post-its and that the message was received. She also apologized again profusely. Sorry for the long post. The moral of the story is don't treat people like dirt even if your intentions are pure, and try to help someone. We can all be kind. Very true. Just because what you're doing is noble doesn't really give you the right to treat anybody else like dirt. I mean, glad that she was very good at her job, but this person turned out to be a big help, especially with that last case. So for all this teasing and yelling at her about her fumbling and accusing her of wrongdoing, she ended up being a very big help in the end, especially with that last one. I think she deserves a little bit more than a bottle of wine. Maybe a raise.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.